Okay, this is round 8. I have one more round to go. I've suffered 2 losses, one in the 3rd round, one in the 7th round. And there's a very good chance that 7 points may still finish in the money. And really in the top 10 at least. Because there's no one with a perfect score. Going into the 8th round, I think the top person at least has 1 or 2 draws. Okay, so let's see what's happening from here. I don't know if I mentioned it, which means that I probably didn't mention it, but this is the World Open 2019, held from July 3rd to July 7th. And I'm playing in the under 1800 section. So let's see what happened here. My opponent's playing the Sicilian. These are all basic opening moves. Oh, I know what I failed to mention. I'll mention it when we get to the little break here. Okay, at this point right here, it's been all basic opening moves according to the computer analysis. It's a pretty much even position. The computer gives black a very slight advantage. What I failed to mention is that after losing the 7th round, I felt very disappointed. I'm trying to evaluate what did I do wrong, and what I really did wrong was I tried to play a really perfect game, and again, time pressure. There's too many different elements. You can't play a perfect game. Just play the moves that you feel most comfortable with. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. But at the beginning of the tournament, I also said I was going to do that. And then it faded away, and, with success. You get comfortable when you're successful. I won a number of games, and I started doing what I said I wouldn't do over again, and ultimately I think it was one of the reasons I lost that 7th game. So this time I said, I'm not only going to say I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get my computer out, and I actually practiced being relaxed and comfortable and just making the moves I felt most comfortable with. Of course, doing some hardcore analysis, but only when it was necessary, not on every single move like I tend to do. So this game, that's why I applied. I got comfortable before the game. I played 5 games against my computer. Very relaxed games. I lost 4 of the 5, but my moves were very relaxed and comfortable. And so I tried that during this game. And this is move 11. I don't think I had 1 minute off my clock. Whereas move 11 in that 7th round, I had already used up nearly an hour and a half. Okay, this was my plan, even though it may not be totally solid according to the computer. But I already made the decision that I was going to try to attack his king directly, using the f3 pawn to stabilize my attack. And my new approach was I was going to stabilize the queen side and make sure he didn't have a counter attack if possible. Right now in this position, I think I have a strong square at d5, and I would have had opportunities at f5 if I decide to ever push up that f pawn. And I'm also thinking I'm going to push up this a pawn to try to stop him from opening lines on the queen side. Now the knights, depending on how the game developed, I'm either going to try to get both of them to focus on d5 or shift one of them back over to the king side if a direct attack is possible. Okay, now my plan just went away. He's weakening his king side, but his king has not really castled. I'm going to have to, instead of weakening his king side, which may result in him attacking me, I'm going to have to somehow break up this, what do they call this? Sometimes they call it a fortress. I'm going to have to somehow break up the fortress he has here protecting this king. I try to take over that strong square. This was also one of my decisions. Before, when I played, I would have done anything to keep a piece at that d5. My strategy now is to go ahead and take the space, give up the piece at d5, and I was also thinking I may be able to switch and put my piece at e4. I got rid of his light squared bishop, which means he's left with dark squared bishop, so I'm going to try to box that bishop in and make it as if the bishop is just as not even on the board. This was a very important plan, that I keep control of over d4 and not let this bishop work his way to that d4. If I ever try to complete this pawn chain going across here, that would make d4 available to him. I really don't want to exchange off my dark square bishop, which could have some influence on the game, with his that doesn't have anywhere to go, really. Now I'm looking at, he's castled his king into that weak position. Can I take advantage of that? This push was really not to attack his king, but to support f4. If he ever decides to push, I'll just take it off. Now I have a position for my knight that can't be challenged by a pawn. I took off that knight because I thought the knight could have a strong square and just sit there once he gets to c4. He also could have some opportunities going to a4, then dropping back to c5. Even though I liked my bishop, mobility was a little limited. The best that bishop could do would be guard the d4 square from being penetrated by one of black's pieces. The computer says everything's even right about now. Here comes his bishop. He's looking for some freedom for the bishop. Now right here, the computer really did not like my g2 move. Said I could have done something better by d2, which I did. I analyzed this move and ended up not liking it. Again, I went to g2. And why did I go to g2? Because I'm anticipating the heavy pieces coming off in the center once someone tries to penetrate, either white or black. So I want my king in position to control the center squares if those major pieces come off. I kind of really like this move. He's putting his queen in a box voluntarily. Now I'm going for my post at, what is that, e4? And now that's the other strong square. It's important that you recognize your strong squares, your opponent's weak squares, your strong pieces, your opponent's weak pieces, and vice versa. You want to get rid of your opponent's strong pieces while maintaining your own. Right now I went from the e4 square, now I'm targeting the f5 square, and there's not a whole lot he can do about that. Number one, it's a white square, and he's already lost his light colored bishop. So I am looking at strategies that involve these light squares. And at this point he was just giving up. Knight to f5 was just too strong. He couldn't find an adequate answer for it. If we look back at the computer, let's see what the computer says. Computer thought c4 would be better. I can see that. b3 trying to get the rook back out of there. Rook switches over to the king side. Rook tries to strengthen e4. And that's pretty much it. And according to the computer, white still has a pretty strong advantage. Let's go back. Knight takes f5, free pawn. Black gives up the exchange. Why did Black give up the exchange? Because he did not want to move into the discovered attack, which might have been a lot better for him. But also, he realized that that knight was going to be very strong the longer he left it there. And there's no one who could take that knight off, because he only has a dark squared bishop. Computer recommends just taking it to f6, b3, and white still has a significant advantage. But taking them off was just like throwing in the towel, because now I want you to exchange off your queens because I'm ahead of material. Sometimes it can be very difficult to win a game with just being the exchange up, but I did not think this was one of those cases. Look at how weak my 3 pawns are. So he did have some opportunities to take advantage of those weaknesses. Now he has dark square bishop. His bishop is going to try to work his way over to this square here. I'm going to try to stop it. So he can't have this square. He's threatening that pawn. I'm willing to give him the pawn, but stop the king from coming over to my side of the chessboard. He takes off the pawn. a4, I'm trying to create lines for my rooks. Staying off of the dark squares. Take the rook. He attacks another pawn. I play the pawn up. Now this is another interesting concept. The rook is unboxed. The very powerful rook cannot go anywhere. So he has to do something about that. So he's trying to get his rook out of there. I move my king in. He takes with the pawn. I take back with the rook. I'm ready to exchange off those rooks and try to simplify the endgame. According to the computer, this is just one game. Trying to exchange off the rooks again. h4, he's trying to create a pass pawn, which I know is not going to work, because whenever he gets the pass pawn down to 8th, I'll just give up one of my rooks, and my pawn will be ready to queen as well. And I did this because I saw a couple of mates that he could fall into, but he didn't have to. And this is just all technique now, just getting rid of a couple of pawns. There's another pawn gone, and his h pawn is never going to see h1. I'll just leave the king stuck in on the h file if I need to. I've connected past pawns. Now by taking off that pawn, that cost him another move to go to the queening square. So my queening square is going to obviously be first. I have a queen, he doesn't. After this, it's all pretty simple. I just go get another queen. Okay, that was game 8. I won it, thank goodness. So I'm going into round 9, which is the last round of the tournament, with 7 points. I'm 1 point behind the leader of the tournament, and so are a bunch of other folks. Well, I wouldn't say a bunch, but quite a few. The way Swiss style tournament works, winners play winners, losers play losers. So by the time you get to the final rounds of the tournament, there are very few people with perfect or near perfect scores. Okay, thanks for watching. One more round to go for review anyway.